Hello fellow humans and welcome to the Smasher, and today I want to talk about OP tanks and why it can be dangerous to label tanks that aren't OP as OP. Like, for example, if I were to make a video and be like, oh no, the Kyler is OP and it's the best tank in the game, you're probably going to buy it. Now, it's not. It's absolutely not. But, you know, there are some Blitz YouTubers out there that just spew shit out of their mouth the second they open it. So, you know, I kind of want to talk a bit about OP tanks and what it really means and what you definitely want to watch out for if you hear that term, because there are a lot of factors at play. So let's first of all look at the stats of the Smasher. As always, don't forget like and subscribe. Now the Smasher, you have 3,500 DPM with HE, 94 pen. You can pen 2 ray heavies in the side. You also have 275 on your heat rounds, which means you can pen anything through the front essentially that you're going to face. The Annihilator can't do that. You also have AP rounds with only 147, but 640 alpha damage. So you basically have the perfect combination of ammo. You have insanely high damage with good penetration. You have insanely high penetration with less damage, and you have a good mix of both. So the alpha damage combination of this vehicle is essentially perfect. Now, obviously, the rest of the vehicle isn't really that good. Now, you have horrible aim time, you have horrible dispersion. It's better than a KV2, obviously. You also have not good mobility and traverse speed. So how can a vehicle like this be OP? Well, it's quite simple. If the tank that you fight gets one shot, they can't shoot back at you, so you win. And that's the strength of the Smasher. Now, there are people that call the Annihilator OP, and I mean, there is some form of truth to that. The problem with the Annihilator, though, it can't pen anything. Is it a tier 8 match? And it also does have the massive problem of you have 3 shells, which means if you track a moving target, or the target's peeking behind a house, you're going to hit 1 of 3, and then you have to spend the whole time reloading all 3 of them. So that is an inconvenience rather than a strength. And if it were to have one shot, it would be a lot better vehicle than if it has those 3. Now, obviously, you could also argue the other way, where if 2 don't pen and 1 pens, you still get more damage, but I think that somewhat equals itself out. I would still have one shot, because that way you can plan it a lot easier and you can work with it a lot better. Now, if you look at down here, now obviously these aren't perfect because they're just numbers, and if you were, for example, to compare a premium tank to a non-premium tank, it would have no value whatsoever, because obviously the standard tank suffers from bad crew and all those kind of stuffs, unless the people at Blitz have calculated that out and they only use fully upgraded, fully crewed vehicles. Now, what we can see here, 6% almost on the Smasher higher. Now, the damage is almost the same between the Smasher and the Annihilator, but why does the Smasher win 6% more of its battles? Well, is that because these players are better than these? That is definitely possible. Now, does the Lycan, which does significantly less damage and almost wins the same amount of battles as the Annihilator, is that damage more impactful as the damage of the Annihilator? You could argue that to be the case. Now, obviously, that's why stuff like this are always just a half measure of figuring out how things work. But what you can conclude trends out of stuff like this. You can see where it's going. And obviously, a tank that's 6% better than everything else at its tier is gonna be too strong for what it's worth, right? And also having the highest alpha damage as well. So basically, the Smasher is having a lot of damage, that damage is having impact, and that damage leads to win. Whereas with the Annihilator, you're having the damage, but you're not winning as much, which means you're doing the damage, but you're not having the impact. So, if you call the Annihilator OP, is the Smasher super OP? How does that work? And if you call the Annihilator OP, the Lycan has an almost identical win rate. Is the Lycan also OP? Huh? Yeah, that's complicated, isn't it? Now let's also have a look at this very professional graph that I made, and this is kind of to prove the point again. As you have most of the vehicles in sort of the same cluster, then you have some that are below, you have some that are slightly above, and then you have some, like the Smasher, that are just miles ahead, and that is where I would classify OP vehicles. Now, if they're just as a cluster of vehicles that is above everything else, but isn't that far away, I wouldn't really call them OP, because at that point, they're just very good. And calling them OP is like kind of misleading, because if you call it tank OP, you're telling a person's going to associate, okay, if I play this tank, I'm going to do better, I'm going to be the best in the game, no matter if I suck or not. But that's simply not the case. For example, a Leopard 1, in the hands of a good player, Leopard 1 is absolutely broken. But a Leopard 1 in the hands of a new player is going to be absolutely useless. So things like that have to obviously be kept in mind. So now with that said, and yeah, I hope this kind of shows what I mean. But let's get into a battle with the Smash. Now, why is the Smasher OP? You'll see very easily soon. Unfortunately, I couldn't record it because Shadowplay decided to die again for no reason. So thanks, NVIDIA. But anyway, the reason this tank is OP is quite simple. You can one-shot a lot of tanks with it. I mean, I can one-shot the M41D, the Steyr, the VK from the side, the RL from the rear, the MT from anywhere, the Torque from the sides, and the VK from the rear. So I can do a shit ton of damage with this vehicle. That's why it's OP. And you can also pen anything with heat, 275 pen. Now, it is very misleading to call certain tanks OP. If you call a Leopard or a Borask OP, then you're simply stupid, because those things require a high skill to actually pull it off. If I give a 40%er a Leopard, they're going to do like 2 damage on average, because they don't know how to play the vehicle, they don't know how to use it. You know, they're going to go city, and they're going to sit in front of a 183 and get their ass kicked. And yeah, that's what I said. MT, he's dead. So, a tank is OP when it's easy to play and when it's miles above others in performance. And that is what the Smasher is. It's super easy to play. You don't need to know much. All you gotta know is how to click 1, 2, and 3. Select the correct ammo. And that's it, pretty much. Everything else, you know, you got enough armor. It's not great, but it's enough. You got enough mobility to move around. Fine. And, yeah. But that's how a tank becomes OP. It's easy to play, and it is insanely good at certain things it does. You know, it's easy to use like that, and you can just simply dominate people with it without having much skill, and that is what an OP vehicle is, and that's what the Smasher is. And obviously the Smasher is, well, being sold only in crates, so that's horrible. Yeah, M41D, I don't know how I got this thing. So, that's the Smasher for you. So, please stop calling tanks OP that aren't. It's really annoying and it's misleading. You know, people are going to buy a tank that they think is OP and then they're going to suck in it. And that's really not good. So, yeah, Smash is broken. Some YouTubers' advice is shit. Mine sometimes is as well. But hope you enjoyed. And see you for the next one. Bye-bye.